What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, you'll be looking at the differences between a high and a low voltage charge controller. You must have known what charge controller is by now, but for the benefit of doubt, charge controller is the component of the solar system that regulates the voltage and current from the solar panels going into the batteries. We basically have two types of charge controllers: the PWM charge controller and the MPPT charge controller. The high voltage and the low voltage charge controller is based on MPPT technology. Then let's get to the differences between a high voltage and a low voltage charge controller. Number one is PV input voltage range. For high voltage charge controller, it has operational PV input voltage range between 150 to more than 600 volts. While low voltage charge controller has operational PV input voltage range between 60 to 150 volts. Number two is solar panel configuration. For high voltage charge controller, it has long strings, which means more series connections and fewer parallel connections. But for low voltage charge controller, they have shorter strings, which means fewer panels in series and more parallel connections. Number three is safety. For high voltage charge controllers, they are very dangerous if mishandled. If you in any way come in contact with a naked wire carrying a high voltage from the solar panel, it can kill you instantly or cause severe injury. So high voltage charge controllers are more dangerous to work with. But for low voltage charge controllers, they are more safer to work with. A shock from an array of solar panel carrying low voltage and high current will give you slight shock, which is not as severe as the shock that comes from a high voltage charge controller. Therefore, low voltage charge controllers are safer to work with. Number four is wiring cost. For high voltage charge controllers, there is use of thinner cables due to low current going through the cables. It doesn't require thicker cables for your installation, and also the quantities of cable that you need. For high voltage charge controller, most of the panels is connected in series, which should not consume a lot of cable because you have to connect the panels from one panel to another, from one panel to another. So you are saving cost both on the thickness of the cable and also the quantity of the cable that you need. Therefore, high voltage charge controller has lesser wiring cost. But for low voltage charge controllers, you need thicker cable due to high current, and also because you have more parallel connection in the system, you will need more cables for your installation. Therefore, you have to buy thicker cables and more quantity of cables, which is more expensive. Therefore, low voltage charge controllers has more expensive wiring cost. Number five is power loss. For high voltage charge controllers, there is lesser power loss, most especially at long distance. Current drops faster than voltage since high voltage charge controllers has lower current. Therefore, there is lesser power loss in the system, most especially at long distance. But for low voltage charge controllers, it carries higher current, which means there is more power loss in the system, most especially at long distance. So low voltage charge controller has more power loss. Number six is ease of wiring. For high voltage charge controller, their wiring is more simpler and easier. Most of your connections will be in series, which is connecting one panel to another, from negative to positive, from negative to positive, from negative to positive, just like that, in a straight line. So the connection is very easy and very simple. But for low voltage charge controllers, they are more complex and complicated because in low voltage charge controller, most of your connections will be in parallel, depending on the size of the solar array. Therefore, solar panel connection in a low voltage charge controller is more complex and complicated. Number seven is string skip. For high voltage charge controller, it is difficult for you to skip any string because most of your panel connections will be in series. So if you skip to connect any panel in the same series, there will be no voltage in the multimeter because the circuit is not complete. So once the circuit is complete, you will see voltage on your multimeter. Therefore, it is much difficult for you to skip any string in a high voltage charge controller. But in a low voltage charge controller, it is easier for you to skip string because most of the panel connections will be in parallel. So if you have parallel and series connections all together, you might do your series, and when you are doing the parallel, you will forget to connect one string of panel, which will reduce the power output you're supposed to get from your solar panel. And you might not notice when you are on the roof until you connect the solar panel array to your inverter or charge controller. Therefore, it is easy to skip string in a low voltage charge controller. Number 8 is best use cases. For high voltage charge controller, it is mostly used in larger systems, in areas with long cable run, in ground mount system where the solar panel is far from the batteries, in factories, commercial buildings and industrial areas. But for low voltage charge controllers, it is mostly used in smaller systems, in areas with shorter cable run, and in residential systems with fewer panels. If you find this video useful, do well to like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Turn on your notification button so you'll be notified when I release new videos. See you in the next video.